What your 2025 says about your financial future is not written in the news, in your horoscope, or in some magical prediction about the economy. It is written in the way you handled money across this entire year, especially in the moments when nobody was watching you. I'm Kyle, and here is the uncomfortable truth. 2025 is not an isolated chapter, it is a preview of the financial movie you are going to watch in 2030 and 2035 if nothing changes. Your future is not created by one big decision on January 1st, but by dozens of small, repeated decisions that you made in 2025 without even noticing. If you zoom out and honestly review your habits this year, how you spent, saved, borrowed, reacted, and ignored, you can already see the direction your financial life is taking, whether you like it or not. The first thing your 2025 reveals is your relationship with financial reality. Do you live in clarity or in fog? If this year you avoided opening your banking app, guessed your balance, hoped the card would pass, and only looked at your accounts when something went wrong, that points to a future filled with financial surprises and constant anxiety. Living like this turns money into a source of fear instead of a tool. But if in 2025 you started to check your accounts on purpose, track expenses even in a simple way, and ask, where is my money actually going? You changed the script. You moved from reacting to planning. You do not need a perfect spreadsheet or a complex app to change your future. You just need to build the habit of facing your numbers regularly, instead of hiding from them every time you feel uncomfortable. Your 2025 also exposes how you deal with responsibility when it comes to money. If your internal story was always, it's the economy, my boss, my family, my past, bad luck, you placed all the power outside yourself. That mindset may feel comforting because it removes guilt, but it also removes control. It trains your brain to believe that your financial life is something that happens to you, not something you can influence. On the other hand, if at some point this year you began to think, I did not choose everything, but many of my results are connected to my choices, you stepped into a different role. You moved from victim to operator. That shift does not magically erase debt or create savings overnight, but it changes the quality of every decision you make from now on. Over years, a long chain of slightly more responsible decisions builds a completely different financial outcome. The way you treated debt in 2025 is one of the clearest messages your future self is sending back to you. If this was yet another year of rolling credit card balances, paying only the minimum, living in the overdraft, and doing refinancing just to breathe for a while, your future is already warning you, I am working for your past. Interest is extremely loyal to itself. It does not get tired, it does not forget, it does not feel sorry. It simply grows month after month, while your best years of work are spent paying for things that are no longer in your life. However, if 2025 was the year you finally said enough, chose one debt to attack, cut leaks in your spending, sold some things, created a bit of extra income, and watched at least one balance go down in a visible way, your future is already getting lighter. The urgency you brought to your debt in 2025 is a direct preview of how free you will feel in a few years. Your emergency fund, or the lack of it, also speaks loudly about your financial future. If in 2025 every small problem, car issue, health expense, broken appliance, unexpected bill, turned into a mini crisis, forcing you into more debt, into asking for help, or into pure panic, this pattern will not magically disappear. Life will continue to throw surprises at you. Without a buffer, every surprise becomes an emergency. But if this was the year you decided to build at least a small cushion, even if that meant saving small amounts and taking longer than you would like, the message is different. You told your future self, I am tired of living on the edge. I want margin. A few hundred or 1,000 saved may not impress anyone on social media, but inside your life, it changes everything.
It reduces stress, it gives you time to think, and it prevents you from making desperate decisions that create even bigger problems later. How you handled each paycheck in 2025 is another powerful signal about where you are heading. If your routine looked like this, money comes in, you feel relief, you pay whatever bill is shouting the loudest, then you spend until there is nothing left, and repeat, your future is simply a longer version of that same loop. Higher income will only make the numbers bigger, not the behavior better. A chaotic system at a small salary becomes a chaotic system at a larger salary. But if in 2025 you began to treat each paycheck as a mission instead of a random event, you changed the game. Sitting down every time you get paid, deciding how much goes to savings or debt, how much covers essentials, and how much is available for fun, forces your money to follow a plan. That ritual, repeated dozens of times a year, quietly reshapes your financial reality far more than any single big moment of motivation.
Your 2025 also reveals what you did about your ability to earn more in the future. If you spent most of the year complaining about your salary, envying other people's incomes, and waiting for a promotion or a miracle while investing almost no time in learning new skills, your income curve will probably stay flat or grow very slowly. New results rarely grow on top of old habits and outdated skills. However, if you used 2025 to study something useful, improve what you already know, test a side hustle, or get closer to people who think bigger about money and work, you gave your future more space to expand. Skills are like seeds. At the moment you plant them, they look small and almost insignificant, but in a few years they explain the difference between someone who is stuck in the same income bracket and someone who has multiple ways to generate money and make better choices. There is also a clear message in how you treated your future self compared to your present comfort during 2025. If lifestyle always came first, ordering food whenever you wanted, buying things on impulse, upgrading devices, saying "I deserve it" every weekend, and saving or investing only happened with whatever was left over, which usually meant nothing, then your future is effectively paying for your present. Present you enjoyed the comfort, future you got the bill. But if you used 2025 to flip this order, even a little, the story changed. Sending money automatically to savings or investments as soon as you got paid, and then choosing to live with what remained, is a very different message. You told your future self, "You matter as much as I do today." That small act of putting your future first, repeated over years, is one of the most powerful forces in wealth building. The environment around you in 2025 is another strong predictor of your financial future. If you spent most of your time with people who joke about being broke, normalize debt, pressure you to spend money you do not have, and roll their eyes when you talk about discipline, you are swimming against the current. Over time, most people sink to the level of the environment they tolerate. But if you gradually began to change what you watch, who you follow, and who you listen to, choosing content and people who talk seriously about saving, investing, discipline, and long-term thinking, you started to raise your internal standard. Your future decisions will be heavily influenced by the examples your 2025 self consumed. You cannot build a wealth builder's life while constantly feeding your mind a broke mindset disguised as jokes and normal life.
Whether you measured your progress at all in 2025 also matters more than it seems. If you reached the end of the year without knowing how much your total debt changed, how much your savings grew, or what your basic net worth is, your future direction is basically a guess. What you never measure feels random, even when it is not. But if you started doing a simple monthly check, adding up all your debts, all your savings, and getting a rough net worth, you created a compass. Even when the numbers hurt, they show movement. They tell you whether your actions are actually working or just making you feel busy. That feedback is one of the strongest indicators that your future will not be just more of the same, because someone who measures consistently is far more likely to adjust, correct, and persist. The emotional tone around money in your 2025 is another preview of your financial future. If every conversation about money ended in argument, avoidance, jokes to hide discomfort, or feelings of shame, your brain learned that money is dangerous and painful. A brain that feels attacked shuts down or runs away, which leads to more avoidance and worse decisions. But if this year you started turning money into a topic of curiosity instead of a source of humiliation, listening to educational content, asking better questions, talking calmly about goals, you began to rewire that reaction. When money stops being a monster under the bed and becomes a subject you are allowed to learn, your nervous system relaxes. A calm, curious brain makes far better financial decisions than a scared, defensive one ever will. So what is your 2025 really saying about your financial future? It is saying something brutally simple. If you repeat me, you will relive me. If your habits with debt, savings, spending, earning, and learning stay exactly the same, the next 5 years will feel like extensions of this one, just with different details and maybe larger numbers. That is not a curse, it's an early warning. It's your future self sending a message back in time. If you keep doing what you did in 2025, do not expect 2030 to look different. The value of this year is not just in what you lived, but in what you were willing to learn from it before it ends.
The good news is that your future is not asking you to fix everything at once. It is asking you to pick one pattern from 2025 and refuse to carry it into 2026. Maybe this is the year you finally list every debt and stop pretending you do not know the total. Maybe it is the year you build your first real emergency fund, even if it takes months. Maybe it is the year you automate a transfer to your future every time you get paid. Maybe it is the year you commit to one new skill that raises your value. Whatever it is, choose one change and lock it in. When you look back, you want 2025 to be the year that revealed clearly where you were going and the year you quietly decided to turn the wheel and drive your financial life in a different direction.